All right. Hello, everybody. Hi. I'm not sure if my chat is working. Here you go. All right, we're live. I got notification on my phone. We are absolutely going live. Um, Welcome everybody. I hope you can both see and hear me. Um, I would also absolutely love to see the chat, which I don't see. Interesting. Um, do, 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 do. Oh, here. All right. Hello, hi. Okay, now I can see chat. Beautiful. Life is only getting better from here. All right. Um, so today, I had a plan for today. Um, the plan for today was to look at some space travel stuff. Um, I think I'll give people maybe a minute to connect for anybody who was on notifications. And then we'll talk about space colonization and space travel and things like that, which is not really exactly within the scope of the next video, but that's related to, let's call it that. And also, I have some thoughts there and some interesting things. Um, oh, mic is low. Okay. How about that? Is this better? Um, I don't remember what settings I used last time, to be fair. I can up it a little bit more if this is still too low. Um, if some of the nice people in the chat can tell me if they can hear me. Okay, good. Good. Beautiful. If it gets quiet, let me know. I can up it even more. All right. Yeah, just because I have a goal. So the goal will be to stream once a month at least. And part of it is because I actually forget how to set things up. So I just had to reset everything from the start this time, and I bet next time will be the same. So I have to stream a little bit more often just so I don't forget all this stuff. And also, I would prefer to have just like some live content here, just so I can, talk freely instead of just scripting the videos. So, space travel. Yeah, interesting topic has been coming out lately quite a bit because now all the rich people are flying to space, uh, and everybody wants to be up in the space now. So I wanted to start with slightly unrelated topic, but something that I've been interested in when I was a little younger. So there was the thing called there's a thing like branch of philosophy. It's not really philosophy. It's intersection between science, philosophy, and religion, which is cosmism. Not space travel, but cosmism. A lot of like I was when I was still in Russia, I was reading a lot of it because a lot of Russian space engineers and everybody they had this idea of space traveling while being on Earth. What I mean by this is this thing. So let's see if my oh, there is so much AI now. Here you go. That's a good thing. Yeah. So noosphere. That was the idea I was really interested in. This is not really. This is not scientific. Just heads up. None of this is science. All of this is not even speculation. It's just really not science. It's just things that people were thinking back in time, back in 18th, 19th century when space travel started to become a thing. Not even started to become a thing, but people were dreaming of going to space first. So they came up with this idea of noosphere. And the guy, there was a Russian guy. Let's see his name. Verdansky. Vladimir Verdansky was the guy who came up with that stuff. He was the scientist who was studying biosphere, biology, zoology, and he proposed that there is actually one more layer to biosphere. Biosphere being the biosphere being the connection between all the living creatures and Earth. So they, first of all, they didn't know where the life came from. So because they didn't know where the life came from, they had that idea of life energy. So Earth was viewed as life energy biome, and noosphere was supposed to incorporate that energy on top of species and environment that was incorporation of this secret energy, which of course doesn't really exist unless you are into that sort of religious thought, but scientifically obviously proven do not exist. But his idea was that since we have noosphere, it's also related to evolution. So since we are in the noosphere and we're evolving as humans, his idea was that eventually everybody will evolve so far that we will become kind of one with the planet. He was an optimist. He wasn't a pessimist, so he didn't see it as a climate collapse and complete, annihilation of Earth to suit human needs. Instead, he's seen it as, as us being so, trying to live within the Earth, and yeah, we hurt it, but we're also part of it. So eventually, we should all be evolving until humans and planet become one, and we connect with that life energy that transcends the Earth. And then, what happens? Then we reach the higher stage of the evolution. And now Earth is actually a spaceship. So that was that's the origin of that's what I really was into and really liked when I was a kid. Not a kid. It was already I was in teens. That was the thing that I was interested in. So space travel. So in their view, a lot of if you think of all the weird ways we can go into space. One of them was to actually turn the Earth into a spaceship and go on Earth. So just detach from the sun. You don't like your location. We as humans think that the sun is going to do something to us. So there is any threat to Earth, move it. That was his idea. Just move it. That was the original old school type of space travel. He obviously dreamed about ships and stuff, but that was one of the wildest ideas at the time. Now, we have not scientists, but billionaires aiming to go to space. And their attack is slightly different. You'll see that when we talk about noosphere, we're talking about humans, and we see all the humans coming together and this upper stage of evolution. But when we talk about billionaires, we're talking about uploading your mind, turning yourself into a computer. So actually not becoming part with the planet and becoming part human, incorporated into the planet. No, opposite. So we turn ourselves into the chips, we load ourselves in the computer, we shoot ourselves with laser to Mars, maybe Mars, or whichever preferred planet of each billionaire is, and then we all live there. So like that. And that's becomes kind of, it hurts me a little on the inside. That's where we are progressing. But there are other ways that we can go around there. Oh yeah, and before we go there, uh, any questions in the chat? I'm gonna lose people now because I'm just talking about random stuff and that's it. And people are gonna get bored and go away. But yeah, I mean, like it's that's the topic of choice. Choices have been made between playing the computer games and looking at spaceships. I chose spaceships, so so we're going into space. But yeah, any questions in the chat, I'll answer. And then, and then the thing I wanted to look at was this. Space hotels. Here you go. So, space hotels. Jeffrey Bezos, none other than Jeffrey himself, is a big proponent of this idea. So, which is really interesting. I mean, that's part of how. Oh God, there's so many ads. That's a part of how I guess billionaire brains work. So they would just go into space because apparently there is way too many humans on Earth. And the solution to this is to move some people to space. So that's a less known side of Jeffrey Bezos, where Jeffrey just wants to put people into space. And it's very interesting because if you think about, well, first of all, the cost of it is quite high. Not just for vacation. So his idea is that he wants a space colonies in space because he thinks there's too many people on Earth, and then we just gonna put the people that we don't like potentially, or I don't know who's going there. Either people who are super rich or people who we don't like, and we're gonna put them into space, and they're gonna just be looping around on some sort of structure on big international space station. Because in some weird world of Jeffrey Bezos, this is a solution to overpopulation problem. Overpopulation problem of, that's where it gets kind of like wacky. Not even wacky. It just gets kind of bad because this belief of overpopulation coming from the people who are consuming so many resources. Like Jeffrey Bezos's footprint on CO2 is way higher than any one of us. Not even talking about space station and him traveling to space. Well, and then the solution is not to curb the consumption and not to curb the consumption of people who are spending all those resources, but to take a bunch of people and spend resources on sending them to space and send them out to space and build a colony there. Which is a very weird and strange looping into the ideas of, overpopulation, which are obviously when we talk about other billionaires, they would be viewing it's actually truly it's both problems. It's overpopulation and population collapse because the environment cannot handle growth of human population at the extent and the consumption, especially when we talk about, there is a dimension to it, which Western countries are consuming way more. So, of course, if we're going up in consumption, it's not sustainable. But on the other side, the economy is structured in a way that constant growth of the population is required. So there is two problems. Either way you turn it, it's going to be bad. No matter how you turn it, it's not going to be any good. So when we talk about billionaires, they then try to solve both problems at the same time. So they, first of all, they would say, we need more people because, of course, they need the economy going. If anybody needs the economy going, it's, rich people. So they need the economy going. So people will be progressing. But, okay, how we solve the problem of having too much of resource use up? Well, we're just going to put some people into space. Which reminds me, like this is actually like one of the, I believe this is, I've seen it before. I don't know who came up with this structure, but if you see Jeffrey Bezos's rockets and his ideas, it's very similar to what he wants. So he just wants International Space Station, but for not hotel, not for hoteling, but for working. So for working, for living. And he's where are we? Yeah. So so that he doesn't, obviously he doesn't get that yet, and I don't think he necessarily will, because both him and Elon Musk currently, they do space travel, but important thing to understand is that they are traveling to space to move cargo. They either move cargo or they move people. So what they're doing is they're doing a trucking company for NASA. They are just either taking people or resources to space, and then they bring into the International Space Station and leave. That's that's the limit of it, and which is very telling of all those progressive, they're not progressive necessarily, but all the science fiction-y billionaire thoughts of colonizing space and colonizing Mars. Well, in reality, they just run a trucking company, which is still impressive. I mean, it's good, good for them, I guess. Not really good for us, in a way that the amount of resources is spent. But that's their business model. There is no colonies. There is no international space stations. International space stations, and I think China has their own version of ISS that remains under the government, and it's highly complicated systems which are operated by space organizations under the wing of the state, not by businesses. And I'm not sure I want to ever see, billionaire operated space colony. So yeah, I don't know, guys. You can give me your suggestion of what you think an international space station looks like under billionaire rule. But I don't foresee anything good happening there. Try to unionize. Oh yeah, okay. We're gonna talk about unions in space. So imagine yourself this. We're gonna look at Mars colony, which is a thing of its own. But imagine we are on Mars. None of this looks realistic. All of these pictures are garbage. Okay, this is more realistic. Not I want a picture. I want a nice picture of Mars colony that doesn't look like it's coming from a science fiction. Because when you look at here, so when we look at the pictures, you'll see that all this AI generated stuff, that's actually not going to happen. There is not going to be domes on Mars. There is not going to be transparent green domes on Mars anytime soon. That's not happening. Largely because there is a ton of radiation there. So unless we are developing some way to fight off radiation, which I highly doubt, there is not going to be any transparent domes on Mars. Good. Let me move myself, or perhaps let me move myself here. Yeah. So that stuff on the right, that's not happening on Mars. Good luck with that. This, not really. Highly doubt. There is this, this is all right, maybe, I guess. Depends on how transparent the ceilings are. Because currently the structure of living on... Oh, here. Okay, this is good. Yeah. Yeah, this is probably what space stations might look like, this picture on the right. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, so this is probably what it's going to look like. Yeah, they will need to build into the ground. Yes, yeah, that's the thing with Mars. That's currently is known. Either you live in this really thick Arctic-like pods, or you're like, I mean, like either way, people there will be exposed to a ton of radiation, so it's not a good trip. I assume some people would do it just because people are like that. Some people would go, and it's thrill of exploration doesn't go anywhere. So it's either super thick pods or we're digging underground, and now we're living in caves underground on an unlivable planet, where people will probably work first on research, I assume. That will be research, but ultimately, people like Elon Musk and billionaires, there is a resource extraction element to it. So they are interested in extracting metals and all that stuff. So basically, it's a working station. So we create a space station, and we put, let's say on Mars, we put 30 people there. So 30 people are on Mars, and if they end up in the situation where they are not actually reporting to any particular organization, international organization, or even national state organization, they are accountable to SpaceX, for example. So we have 30 employees on Mars who are accountable to SpaceX. Now, current SpaceX CEO is an interesting person, and we know how Elon Musk, for example, was involved in the war in Ukraine, right? So whenever he doesn't like something that is happening, he can intervene. So if we have 30 employees on Mars who are trying to unionize, what is going to happen to those 30 people in those 30 pods? Well, yeah, people align. Yeah, this is interesting. So, like, okay, maybe like this first 30 will be fine. But if we talk about large space colonies and we're talking about spaceships operated by companies, what happens when any of those spaceships decide to organize or unionize? Are we just turning off the air? Are we just gonna union bust in a literal sense? Just send them out, say, okay, guys, you know what? We sent that spaceship is a write-off. Sorry, something happened. There was a fire. Fires happen. So that's the interesting thing about colonies. If colonies are not currently accounted for, accountable to any government, I mean, like there is always a risk because there is a governing body. But if we're building a really large, dreamer colony, let's dream future. Let's dream, year 3000. We're just gonna put a whole group of people into the this thing. God, I forgot what it's called. It's like a tube. There is like this specific type of ship, which you see in Interstellar, which is rotating. There is like some physics background to it. Yeah, O'Neill's cylinder. So it's called O'Neill's cylinder. I should stop calling it tube. It's not a tube. It's a cylinder. And a cylinder that kind of looks... well, can I open it? Yeah. So this idea that we are talking we're talking about putting people into a large spaceship, shipping them out, and they are on board of this one big spaceship which has really poor connection to Earth, but also people continue living there. So they are traveling to space and they're continuing to live on that spaceship. So what exactly happens on that spaceship if something goes wrong? We're kind of ending up with like middle early colonization period on Earth, where people would travel on the ships, and then things would happen on those ships which would not necessarily be good. So we either have uprisings or we have state control also. So you would have like workers on the ship, but you would also have military that controls them. So a lot of ethical questions are happening on those big space colonies. Oh yeah, space habitat. Yeah. What do we have? That's the Bezos plan. Yeah, that's like Bezos's plan, kind of thing. So just there's too many people, put them in a cylinder, ship them out. Neil, sci-fi writer, No, didn't hear about him. I'm not into like reading science fiction, by the way. All my space travel ideas are always coming from like sciencey background, from life or science, and not science fiction. I don't know why actually, because I actually all the science fiction I've ever read, I really enjoyed. There are a lot of nice ones. Yeah, so uh, yeah, so whenever we talk about space travel on living ships, because there is three ways to space travel. All of them billionaires are interested in. One is somehow preserving humans, loading them on the ship, and then shipping them elsewhere. So turn yourself into a popsicle, and then travel to. I mean, Mars is only 3 years, but if we talk about traveling further than Mars, that's going to take probably close to centuries. So freeze yourself and load yourself. And then second thing is we have these tubes, or no, cylinders, not tubes. I should stop calling them tubes. We're having cylinders or any other structure that can travel through space. So we end up having either orbital or just traveling colonies of people in space. So we become interstellar species, which apparently is important for some people. Some people like, I mean, Elon Musk is a big proponent of interstellar species. He sees yeah, somebody said about climate change. That's exactly what happens. So instead of solving climate change, we're just gonna sit on a bus and drive away. We're gonna just drive away from our problems. Isn't that gonna work out? Just instead of just curbing CO2 emissions, somehow it's more rational to just put yourself onto the spaceship, build a spaceship, so because the technology doesn't exist. So come up with technology for space travel instead of coming up with technology that would either substitute current oil extraction or reverse it or significantly reduce it or anything. None of that is, forget about that. Just sit in a bus, drive away. So one thing is freeze yourself. So and you'll see that I'm gonna make next video will be about this, but everybody in some way invests in all three ways. So freeze yourself into a popsicle and travel. Second, create a living colony. But the living colonies are also, there is a problem for billionaires because they also want to live forever. So when we talk about space colonies, space colony itself is not enough. For somebody like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, that's not enough. There has to be also a living forever component, because how else would we manage to save our overlords? If they suddenly die, what happened? Well, poor us. I'm sure we'll all suffer in the world without Elon Musk. Oh. So, third thing is what a lot of them are interested in is actually uploading intelligence or somehow achieving immortality through computing. A lot of interesting stuff happening there, none of which is, if you actually think about any of that, again, very questionable. So we're gonna upload our billionaire overlords into the net somehow. Technology doesn't exist. Currently, there are dreamers. There are people who dream, which somebody recommended me on Patreon, this video. No, I'll have to find it. So, modernity is done. Yeah, modernity is done. And I'm not gonna, if you want, you can watch that video. I'll transition here. No, now I need to move myself again. Move myself to the right. Here we go. Yeah, this video, if you ever want to watch, so it's science fiction with Damian Walter. A really nice video. He talks a little bit about billionaire neo-feudalism and science fiction intersection with it, because what we end up seeing is people like Elon Musk who want to upload themselves towards immortality. But what happens to everybody else? What happens to peasants? And actually, if you speak about just immortality in the computing, it's also quite questionable, because the more I read into it, the more I don't want to say I'm like scared, because I mean, nobody's gonna upload me. I'm not important enough. But the idea of mind uploading itself is quite unsettling, because currently what we have is just replication of brain. So people are attempting to replicate brain in the computer, and then copy the function of existing brain onto the computer. Neil deGrasse Tyson was interviewed. Yeah. Yeah. Neil deGrasse Tyson is actually quite he's like a skeptic on this idea, but he does a lot of thinking on it, which is good. And actually, I like a lot of what he has to say, because a lot of the times he would be more whenever he talks to either billionaires or other rich people, he asks very simple but important questions and you can see that these people actually didn't think through. They just dream, and they just dream of themselves becoming immortal, but they don't really dream of practical aspects of any of that, of either space travel or mind uploading. Like, for example, I think that's deGrasse Tyson's defend the idea that if we were to colonize Mars and make it habitable, then it could fix Earth. It depends. I know I've seen him in 2 different interviews speaking about that. So one thing where he said exactly that. He said like, oh, once we have a technology to terraform Mars, we have a technology to terraform Earth. But in the other interview, he said it other way around. So, which makes sense. Like, if you have technology to terraform Earth, you have technology to terraform Mars, which is more like rational way to look at it, because indeed we can have once we have the tech to, if not once, if actually not a big optimist in that, but if we have technology to somehow address our climate change issues, then potentially we have technology to change the environment on other planets. But the problem is we don't have anything to fix current situation that we have on Earth. That's kind of that's the big problem, right? Because there is actually no tech. None of this tech exists. None of the stuff that these people are dreaming about exists. And what I liked deGrasse Tyson's question there was that Elon Musk is talking about populating several planets in a way to preserve humanity. Right? So you end up having people on, say, on Moon, on Mars, and on Earth. And then his idea is that not just climate change, but also something like asteroid attack, or perhaps large-scale conflict, nuclear war. So you have to have species on more than one planet. And like Neil deGrasse Tyson's question there was like, okay, so what do we do? Okay, there is 3 planets. We live on, not 3 planets. Moon is not a planet. Moon is what is Moon? Satellite? So we have 3 objects, 3 space colonies, technically. We are across 3 planets. Now we know there is asteroid heading towards the Earth. Are we going to relocate these people? How is it going for us now? How are we doing with relocating people currently? Are we just going to watch the 1/3 of the population die? Is that what's going to happen? Is that the enjoyable experience we're trying to achieve? So, and then, yeah, like there is no questions for that. Because if we talk about somebody like Sam Altman is big into that too, like Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Bezos. What's the other guy? The one that has the space tourism company. Also another rich guy. Virgin Galactic. I don't remember what his name is. So when we talk about all these people, they dream, but these dreams kind of fall flat because they don't think even through the most practical, like not even most practical, like most basic things. Like when we upload intelligence, is it still, are we flexible still? Branson, yeah, that's Branson. Virgin guy. Yeah, true. That's a virgin guy. So when we talk about them, they didn't even think through the most basic questions, right? So when we upload mind, is it still flexible, or are you just locked? Because right now I find this idea is quite unsettling, because what these people are trying to achieve is recreate a very fixed brain model of particular brain. So recreate and create a total replication of one human brain in the particular moment. But the thing is, that's not how the brain works. Your brain today is not the same brain as you had yesterday. There is a lot of flexibility, which allows people to be who we are, and all organic species. That's how all neural systems work. So are we just locked forever into the simulation and we call it human? So we create simulations of billionaire overlords in the computer, and then we do what with them? It's just it's just the question: do we treat them as billionaire overlords now, like those computer simulations? And how are these computer simulations, if they are for some reason intelligence, which I don't think they will be intelligent, but that's a separate conversation. But if suddenly we upload somebody in the computer and they remain intelligent, how does that feel? I don't think it would feel any good, because all the associated ideas are basically irritate your pleasure center in some way in the brain. So upload the brain into computer, and then you have a model. Obviously, on that model there are things like pleasure center, and then you just poke into that area of brain forever. Is that the human experience? Who wants to sign up? Who wants to sign up to just become a simulation on the web that constantly irritates its pleasure center forever? Doesn't sound appealing to me. I can tell you that. But nonetheless, that's a requirement for the space travel for billionaires. So mind uploading and space travel currently go together hand in hand, which is interesting, because before, when we had something like we had space rush, USSR and US, and currently we have also China, who tries to enter and become another space superpower. The reason there was one, just showing off. Obviously, we made it to space. That's always a good show off. Also, a lot of military tech is linked to the current space tech that we have. So the internet, the satellites, all that stuff, it is currently linked to our military expansion. So now military expansion done. Now we link space travel and immortality for the rich. Immortality for the rich. Techno-feudalism for the poor. Elon is addicted to ketamine. Does he take digital ketamine in that machine? Yeah, that's a question. Because, like, for me, like, I've read about 3 books. I'm currently reading the book that is called Deep Utopia. I'll show it to you. I absolutely hate it. The more I read it, the more I hate it. But I need to finish it. Yeah, so this book, Deep Utopia, it's about problems that we might have in the world of technological post-scarcity. So we resolve climate change, we resolve mortality, we resolve mortalities if we become immortal. There is AGI available to us. All our problems are done. Energy is not a problem. So he tries to address, what's his name? Nick Bostrom. He has the other quantum intelligence, I think, book, or super intelligence before. But his premise for this book, which, by the way, is kind of terribly written, is to talk about all the problems that we might have in the future where we solved everything. And the more I read it, the more I hate it. And the basic problem that I have with it is, do any of these people, are they people? Do they live in real life? What is happening there? Because they just talk about idea, like one of the biggest problems is idea of boredom, right? So what do you do when you are uploaded into the net and you're that little computer on the wired, and then you are just having all this time forever. So forever is at your disposal. How do we manage that? And their basic thing is, how do we not get bored? And he talks about, I was just complaining to my husband yesterday about that. We had Friday dinner and I was just talking about deep utopia and space travel and how I hate this book. But basically there is this point where he says, he gives specific example. He says, okay, if you are in real world and you are a carpenter, and the carpenter makes a table, and he makes one table and it's fun for carpenter. But then if he makes million tables, the millionth table is not going to be same fun as the first table. And I was just like, did this guy ever do anything with his hands? Did he see the carpenter? Did he ever interact with the person who is attached to their labor, somebody who actually loves what they do? I mean, he wrote a book. He wrote a couple of books. Did he get bored writing the third book? So many questions. That's why it irritates me so deeply, that we are just falling into idea of boredom. And then solution to that idea of boredom is to just irritate the pleasure center forever. Delete the boredom center. That's the other solution. So whatever makes you feel bored, delete that part of your brain and just go on. And that just, to me, sounds like, I don't know what to say, because are these people actually existing in real life? How is their life structured so different from mine and any other people I interact with, that their solution to being bored is basically doing drugs forever, or just deleting the part of the brain that makes you feel bored? And also the third thing is, like, how are you even bored from you're not gonna get bored from the something that fulfills you, even if it's a millionth time. I mean, people switch what they do, but still, even with carpenter example, none of the pieces of wood are the same. And if you ever meet the carpenter, they're perfectly fine carving a million of the same thing, because they're, especially when we talk about craftsmen, they're attached to their labor. They kind of enjoy. That's the whole spiel of their job. And that's why, before we had passing through generations, passing of careers through generations, like blacksmith, farmer, because there was particular attachment to it too. Yeah, that's my rant about deep utopia. Hate this book, do not recommend it. It's written terribly. There's 2 books in one. For some reason, I don't know, he writes, it's part play, part actual nonfiction writing, and they are merged together. It's there is no smooth connection between them, and everything that he says there is just terrible to me, to my ears. But he's a good person to look into if you're wondering how Elon Musk's and Peter Thiel's brains work when they talk about it. That's kind of how they view it. It's just, okay, we're in post-scarcity, climate change doesn't exist, immigration crisis, we resolved everything. We don't need to worry about fertilizer and feeding people because everything is a chip. And then your biggest problem is, how do I not get bored? Which I guess is a problem of today for billionaires, because it's easy to get bored when you don't have any problems and there is no risk. Pretty much everything that they do, there is no risk attached to it, so they never feel like actual people. Might as well be on Mars already at that point. Oh yeah. But imagine if you have deluded dreams of some form of immortality for myself. Imagine if you have so this is a thing with billionaires, right? So especially if we talk about Elon Musk. Musk has how many kids? Too many kids. We'll see. What internet says. How many? 7. So he currently has 7 children, from a bunch of different women, some of which are also not, they're born through surrogacy. So they have biological or birth mother and the genetic mother. So 7 kids, right? So what is going to happen to them? Is he going to upload them, or is he just going to upload himself? That's my problem with this too. Like it's because they're not really caring about other people to the point where it's not even like they're nobody gets the trip. Just they get the trip. Their wife is not getting the trip. Their kids also can just go die for whatever they care. So anything that's the problem with current space travel. Not just current space travel, but billionaire approach to space travel and mind uploading and immortality is that anytime you touch any ethical concern or actually start asking practical questions, there is not like you start digging into it and it's more and more terrible the deeper you go. We go into mind uploading, okay, it's just simulation of brain with irritated pleasure center, and it's not even flexible in a way that the person is. It doesn't have it's connected to input and output on the computer, so there is no understanding of like fulfilling things like in your normal life, when you eat. So if you eat really good food, or if you're with the person you love, or you watch your child grow, there is particular fulfillment in that. So forget about that. There is no more fulfillment. We just get input of pleasure and output of maybe some information, I guess. But that gets reduced, which is, for me, doesn't sound really appealing. And then we start speaking about colonies, and then as soon as you start talking about space colonies, you start getting into questions, well, who actually owns those companies? Are the employees their slaves, or what are they? Do they have a ticket to return? What happens when you get fired on Mars? You get shipped back, I guess, hopefully you don't just get tossed out into the radiation field. This part also gets questioned. And then the question, of course, of why are we even doing this? We are having so many problems on our planet that we need to address. We don't address any of those. Instead, we just imagine some different problems of the space travel and hopefully that we can just run away from existing problems. Anything, literally any concern, any question that you have about billionaire space race, why are they doing it? How are they doing it? For whom are they doing it? Just ask the question, it's gonna go sideways. Spend 5 minutes researching it, nothing good comes out of it. That's the current position of the space travel. Oh yeah, NASA sent nuclear bomb to break up the Van Allen belt. Oh, interesting. I didn't know about that one. That one is really cool. Did they? They did. They indeed did that in 1964 as part of Project Century. Knocked out equipment, artificial radiation belt. Oh yeah, so they created more radiation. Nice. And caused electrical malfunctions. Created artificial aurora. Yeah, well, at least we nuked the space, I guess. We know what happens then. Well, we apparently, I was reading about this, but there is like a gentleman's agreement that we don't put nukes into space. I wonder how long that's gonna last. My bet is that by 2030, there's gonna be some sort of weapons either in space or on Moon. I don't think they'll be on Mars. But on Moon, certainly. Actually, Moon is from the military and governmental standpoint. That's why governments are aiming actually for the Moon, not for the Mars, like Elon Musk, because there is military objectives to be achieved on the Moon. And having a base on the Moon is also way cheaper, way faster. We went there. There is not that many problems to deal with. I mean, it's kind of similar to International Space Station, but something relatively doable. And you can put weapons there. How about that? So we just put weapons on the moon. 2030. I bet it will be there. That's my. I mean, predicting future is silly, but that's my bet. Is that we are gonna put nukes on the moon, or at least maybe weapons. And moon is only, I think, 3 days travel, as compared to Mars, which is in a couple of years. Yeah, 3 days. So in 3 days, we can be on the moon. Really good position for military base, similar to Arctic, or bases that are located across the islands. That's what U.S. is doing in a lot of things. A lot of their positions are located across the globe. They need to have military bases across the globe to work with the satellite system, because if you're only in northern hemisphere, you can't see southern hemisphere. So they kind of have to have. That's what Australia is doing for them. Australia has military bases for U.S. because they need to have a really good base in southern hemisphere. And the same can happen with the moon. So moon is even better because you are a little bit further away. You can do a lot of associated research too. So physicists will be happy. They'll look at the stars and enjoy the discoveries and everything. But also you can put a military base there. So win-win. That's kind of how the space exploration has been working. Uses already machine gun on the outside of their military space station. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what USSR did. That sounds very USSR-ish to just stick the gun on the outside. Which, I mean, like, they also didn't know what they were doing at the time. They were just shooting things. Literally, it's the space, if you look into the history of space race, because technology didn't really exist and everything was high risk. So they just did a bunch of things. So whatever they came up with was happening. Like, shoot dogs into space, hope they return. If they don't return, well, too bad. Shoot people there, hope they return. Some didn't. It's still very, very. Space travel is one of the most dangerous jobs by mortality. I think they're close to one tenth, like 10% mortality rate, because there isn't that many people traveling, so each death moves the statistic quite significantly. But still, it's a very, very dangerous job. Not that people will still do it, as somebody said in the chat. They just gonna. There are people lining up for Elon Musk Mars colony without asking any questions, because I think part of it is they want to go to Mars. There is an amusement in it, obviously. If I ever have to travel to space orbit, I would absolutely take that opportunity. That's super fun, I suppose. But I don't dream of flying in a corporate rocket. Yeah, so, and then, which reminds me, I was we had this exhibit recently in town. Those projected domes, so it's 360-degree projection happening, and it was the space travel. So topic was space travel, and they show you the planned NASA moon base. So they kind of pretend like it's obviously you're sitting there on the floor, but it's almost like you're in a rocket, and then you're traveling to moon. Because currently NASA is working on Artemis. No, wait, how do I pronounce that? So NASA actually has an idea of lunar outpost, so that they're working on. And the plan was, God, what was the year? I think it was 2025 or 2027 for the first set of equipment to travel there. And then after that, we're talking about, here. Let me transition. Yeah, so here is, so they identified already positions where they can land. They already have, it's moving. Like, that will happen in our lifetime. I think the moon base will happen in our lifetime. They're sending equipment, then they're sending more equipment, then I believe again they're sending just a couple of people, and then habitation system. And once they have habitation system, they will put people in there. Which, I mean, people live in Arctic currently. If you look at Arctic bases, Arctic bases are a good prototype for what the moon base might look like. Do they have analog missions? Yeah, here. So yeah, analog missions, simulated missions, habitat. So they have everything moving. So in our lifetime, we'll see a moon base. And I think this is actually the space travel that we will see, unlike that of Elon Musk's or Bezos's ideas, because NASA is, I mean, they've been doing that for some time, even though they do stupid things and they still are big. There's a lot of big dreamers, not very rational dreamers there always, but at least they did things before, and then they know how to do that again. So I expect that they will do a moon base, while Elon Musk will keep dreaming and then eventually, hopefully, die. I really don't want. I don't want to see him uploaded into the net. He's technically already uploaded into the net. He just connected himself so much into X that he might as well be. He's terminally online, as in almost literally terminally online. Oh yeah, having children is the complication of immortality cycle. Yeah. By the way, this is another question of immortality. If we become immortal, do we stop having children, or are we constantly expanding? Because having children who are if you're immortal and your child is immortal and your child's child is immortal and all of us are immortal, then suddenly we have an expansion of population. Even if we are all living in a computer, it's still an expansion, which will, even on the computer, not be super sustainable. And this is raised in that book that I hate, Deep Utopia, that I'm currently reading. And author's suggestion to it, if you want to know it, is just don't have kids. Like, people will just don't have kids. Which, again, I'm not sure that person ever, like, the author ever went outside and seen any people, because people kind of enjoy having children. A lot of the people, they like them, so that's what they have them. And just telling people, hey, you're now immortal and you just don't have children. Sure. Sure, friend. Yeah, what do you have? Yeah, I used to love the idea of space exploration, and after learning about it, I found it not as attractive. Yeah, that's kind of what happens to me. Not like it happened to me too before, and the deeper I go into this project for the next video, the more the more disenchanted I get with the idea of space travel, because there is this dream, obviously, and you still get people who are there are a lot of people who are actual dreamers and who like push the science forward, and they kind of, they mix this practicality with dream. But there are also people who are just it's detached. That's the problem I have. It's detached from reality so much, and it has so many ethical questions that none of these people want to answer. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Coastal Elite. Coastal Elite is sponsoring here and on Patreon. Thank you very much. So that's the bigger problem I get is this. It kind of falls flat because there is also science fiction. So science fiction does a great job actually talking about all the ethical concerns and all the all the questions that you might have about space travel. So we have this fiction and artists who are imagining what can go wrong if we upload ourselves into the net, how the society might look like in the space colony, how would it feel for the person to travel on a spaceship detached from space. We have movies, we have games, we have like books, comic, anything, all sorts of art that explores this topic, and they do such a good job. And then on the other side, you have billionaires who are pushing these ideas, who are talking about them on podcasts, and they're talking about them on the media, and they sponsor some sort of scientific research and businesses, but they are doing such a terrible job. They're absolutely detached from any sort of asking any sort of questions. They basically don't want to start ask any questions. They just want immortality and travel somewhere. Mostly immortality. I guess the space travel only becomes, I guess, a sort of entertainment and a requirement. Like they link them two together. AGI, our general intelligence, mind uploading, immortality, space travel, link them all into one thing, and then they just dream in that direction. But all the dreams are empty of substance. I guess that's maybe what causes it to fall flat, because all the dreams are actually not linked to other people or reality. That's maybe why we have such a repulsion to this, to the idea of unionizing your asteroid workers, and then them getting union busted on the asteroid with the laser. Just pew pew, bye, no more unions. You only need to do that once, by the way. You'll only need to do that once until there is a larger movement in the space in the space colonies, because it's such a fragile environment as compared to Earth. Because on Earth, if we talk about ideas of revolution or social resistance, there is a lot of survivability. So even in the times of hardship, people rely on each other, and we can grow food here. We don't need any special resources, which, I mean, there is still amount of suffering caused, but that suffering can be mitigated by the livable environment. When we're talking about space, there is no livable environment. So there is a question of how, first of all, how do you experience yourself in the environment that is not livable, right? So how do you feel when you can't go outside, you can't go to the forest, which we have spaces like that, by the way, on Earth a little bit. Arctic bases, again, is a good example. So people who live on Arctic bases, they go outside, but it's not a livable environment. It's not a nice place to be. So these people will only live on the bases for a mission or two. I've read, actually, during COVID, the people there were just locked, so they extended their mission. And the other thing is International Space Station is also another example of people who are on a mission, and they just live for a year or two in space. But then again, we don't know what is the psychological, and no, we know that psychological effects are actually quite daunting. That's why the people are only living there for a mission. The reason nobody is just there permanently forever is because there is actually just it's hard. It's hard on human psychology to live in isolation in a locked room with the same people, which is why we should not have solitary confinement, for example. That's the argument for why we should, have better living conditions for, not to speak about prisons, but even if we don't talk about abolitions, but like there is a lot of human movements which are trying to improve conditions of prisoners, because we know that living in locked up, isolated environment is unhealthy for humans. So what happens if we are putting somebody permanently onto a base outside in space? Again, something like cylinders, those O'Neill cylinders, so colonies traveling through space. I guess like he's one of the solutions with those giant colonies is that they are so big that they are basically equivalent to living on a planet. But again, none of this is even close to being either possible or it's fantasy. When we talk about fantasy, it might land good, so we can explore the topic of living in a locked up space. But if we are talking technologically, there is no technology. To do this, it's extremely risky, and if you put people onto the spaceship like that and you ship them out, you pretty much just sign them up for very terrible time and very terrible death. And not think, and then again, billionaires just don't think about it. Just forget about it. That problem doesn't exist. Go like Deep Utopia book and just pretend all the problems are solved. I guess like that's what makes me hate it so much. It's just all this well, it is a podcast. All this life is just me ranting about the book that I hate and I'm trying to finish for the next video. So feel free to enjoy that experience. Oh god, I hate it. I absolutely the more I read it, the more I hate it. God, but that's the whole premise, right? So forget about all the problems that you have. Just pretend we solved everything. And then think about the problems that we might have in the world where we solved everything. But the reality is none of it is actually even close to being solvable. Right? So the spaceships that we need don't exist. Propulsion systems that we need don't exist. Technology for propulsion systems that we need do not exist. Because you can't fly into space on what do you call it? On like, because currently all like we shoot things on rockets, right? Still, we just burn fuel once again. It's burn fuel and shoot it up. That's the end of travel, and then from there we might use the what do you call it? There is like obviously just the systems that will reduce the energy consumption of a spaceship, but they are slow. So all those satellites that are traveling past our solar system, all they rely on just passive and like gravitational energy, basically. This is very slow. When was the Voyager 1 sent out? 1977. So it's past the Pluto when? Last year or recently? So it took 50 years to get to Pluto. It's one human life. That's the reality of space travel, that it takes one human life to get to the end of solar system. So yeah, none of that exists, and mind uploading doesn't. And then I would wish that these people concentrate on something more, even in the realm of making it happen, trying to concentrate on what do you call it? Okay, if you're trying to make the mind uploading or space travel happen, if we want really to do that, there are scientists who work on it. There are projects, there are scientists who would take that money and actually do something practical with it. But they don't get sponsorships. Sponsorships are given to the people who are satisfying billionaire dreams, not the actual technology that would be needed to do the travel or to do mind uploading. I think AGI is the only time where it kind of overlaps. So artificial intelligence is getting sponsored in the right direction. But if you look in mind uploading, it's such a mess. It just money gets. I just research all those little companies that billionaires are investing in. And I have a science background, so any basic sciencey stuff, if you know how the brain works, you know that current mind uploading tech is nowhere even close. And the same scientists who this billionaires are sponsoring, the actual scientists who are leading those projects, that's what they say. They say, hey, like, we are not trying to upload intelligence. What we're trying to do is we're trying to set a computerized model of a brain. Which is a good thing. It will be good for science if we ever do. But the thing is, it's not mind uploading. It's not immortality. You just made a computer model. It's the same as computer model of cell membrane. If you get an advanced computer model of a particular cell membrane, you can set experiments on it. It's beautiful. But it's not a cell. It's a model of a cell membrane. So that's the same thing with mind intelligence and brains. Xbox. Bezos bucks. Oh yeah. What about? Oh yeah. This is another interesting topic. So, what do we use as a currency in space? In space colonies? Bezos dollars or X's. Also, does the money exist? Or perhaps this is the one way to abolish money. We're abolishing money by traveling to space and becoming slaves to to billionaires who transferred themselves into the computer. And we just endlessly mine metals for chips on Mars and ship it. Maybe not even ship it. Maybe we just make chips right there. It's a good. I guess it's a good storage condition on Mars, right? Cold. Uh, well, no, because radiation affects the technology as well. It affects the electronics. So you can't even have that. God, is it underground bunker for billionaires? So Mars colony, dig into the ground, set a bunker because we need to cover from radiation, right? So dig down and put a lid on it. So create a little colony down. Oh, mining crypto. No, yeah, that's one way to mine crypto. So we're going down. We create like a little rocket tunnel under the ground, and then we just put chips or computers of uploaded minds of billionaires, and we just store it inside the Mars tunnel. And then there is like a bunch of peasants which are getting paid really high because they only live for about 15 years because of the radiation. So a bunch of peasants who just maintain that structure. How about that? That's a great plan for the space colony. Though I guess one there is like an easy way to get rid of that storage in that case. If you open the lid, it's done. If you just nobody flies there, it's done. But other than that, if you actually start like thinking about possibilities there of things going wrong, that's one of the possibilities that we just have techno peasantry and tech billionaires who are living forever. I don't think they will live forever, but like we pretend that they live forever. It's the same way as pharaohs in Egypt. We just pretend that they live forever in the afterlife, right? So we upload them on the chip and we pretend that now billionaires on the chip, and then we worship that chip. And then we maintain the computer. So the afterlife of our billionaire overlords is maintained. So that's how my rant goes. That's one way to one way to look at it. Because terraforming. So yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson, by the way, also a big proponent of this terraforming situation on Mars. But terraforming Mars is an extremely long process, which is technically it kind of is. Like if you read science on it, it is possible. But the thing is, it's so is possible terraforming Earth, and we have no tech for it. Oh, Chris is in the chat. Hi, Chris. Yeah. So yeah, we're talking here about setting up space colonies with billionaires, and I'd like you to, if you want to put in the chat, who's your preferred billionaire who you're going to space with. And we'll see who's Chris's preferred billionaire. So are you getting the Bezos and a space colony traveling through space? Elon Musk Mars setup. Sam Altman, laser yourself into the chip and an asteroid. Put yourself on the asteroid. I think I don't know what's Peter Thiel's one. Peter Thiel's also has the special one. I think his is also laser yourself onto the asteroid. Varda Space Industries is his baby. Orbital manufacturing and re-entry platform. Isn't his idea the lift to space? Well, kind of. Yeah. So from Peter Thiel you get space lift. So everybody has their own unique way to travel up to the stars, and just sitting there. Oh yeah. Bezos. Yeah, Bezos is actually like yeah, at least he flies the space rocket into like the questionably shaped space rocket into space. But also Bezos is one of the only ones actually who is not like he's investing in immortality, but not as much. So he's not as obsessed with the idea of becoming immortal. He is actually more obsessed with the idea of actual space travel, as opposed to Elon Musk, who is just basically all immortality, and Sam Altman is also very much into ideas of immortality, and space travel is just like one of the linked ways to immortality, not other way around. Uh, so yeah, that's the current situation with the space travel. And there was like something else I wanted to talk about for 5 trillion industry. Somebody made a Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel is the one I didn't look at him yet, just because I didn't have time yet. But I will look at him too, because he is very much into this accelerationism, dark enlightenment type of thing. So he's a big opponent of democracy. Like he's very big in techno feudalism. If you look in Peter Thiel, and if you want to really know the evil billionaire, if you really want to see who's the evilest evil billionaire, it's probably Thiel. That's my assessment of it. So I do not expect anything good to happen there in terms of space travel from the guy who believes that democracy should not exist and we should return to techno feudalism, and humans are way too human and caused way too many problems, and the solution is to just not have humans. You know, that's where we have him. Yeah, that's the thing, because like Chris says with terraforming, if we start about terraforming and terraforming Mars, what about we terraform Earth? And I think Neil deGrasse Tyson has that in one interview too. So where he says like, you know, if we speak about terraforming, why won't we terraform Earth to begin with? Why won't we? And it's like my bigger question here too. What happens if what do you say? What do we say? Why won't we start with addressing our problems? You know, like that's the thing. And especially like from somebody who I do work for work, I do a lot of process improvement and process engineering for large scale manufacturing. That's kind of what I do for work. But the thing is, when you come to like a manufacturing environment and you have a problem, you kind of don't just say, hey, like let's just like throw your equipment out and move you to a different building because your building doesn't work. We don't say, hey, like what about we just rehire everybody, like fire all these people, hire different ones, or we say, hey, like oh, none of this works, forget about it. No, that's not how anything works. If you go to the doctor, your doctor doesn't just, if you go to the doctor and there is a serious condition and they just tell you to, you know, cut part of your body off as an odd solution to it. That's not how any of that ever works. And yet, if we speak about space travel and we speak about intelligence offloading, it's almost as if there is this gigantic detachment from the reality where we is and where we want to be, and nobody wants to invest in actual tech or solutions of like where we are. Like, why won't we start solving problems on Earth and then we learn how to do the space travel? And then we learn how to do terraforming. And then we learn what human intelligence is. What about we invest in biology and chemistry, because those people are actually doing, oh yeah, maybe fucking up Mars is a lower risk. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess like that's one potential way to look at it. If you screw up the environment on Mars, at least nobody died. Unless there was a space colony of X, and then we just it got union busted again in space. Do you have any thoughts of whether republic will always move towards fascism and democracy naturally moving towards socialism and communism? Kind of. That's like I believe in it. I don't think it's necessarily a factual information, but I sort of I'm a believer into progression towards. Like I know like there are people who on the left who would say that we just need to either to just like some goes through some sort of distraction, right? So like the which sometimes works in the countries but doesn't work in the West. So country becomes so poor, and community becomes so like their life becomes so terrible that they arrive to communism, which happens. But we don't have an example of this ever happening in developing countries. All developing countries seem to be progressing other way. So we seem to be improving the life and technologically advancing, but also just politically improving and socially improving. And then that's like seems to be a more stable path, because alternative what happens in the West is exactly we just revert to fascism. Some conditions degrade, and what happens is not communism. What happens is fascism and hard right movements. Which is not like, I mean, there is like some base to it, obviously, in social research, if you look at the history, but it's not, it's an opinion. Let's say it's opinion, not a fact. So that's the opinion of mine. Which, by the way, in the space travel, returning to space travel, what about colonizing other planets? Because we can go to Europa and Titan. No, Titan or Europa? Europa, which is a moon of who? Of Jupiter. Right? Also, another unlivable place where we can put ourselves. Imagine being that far from the sun. Oh god, Jupiter has 95 moons. This is an interesting fact, but it's a lot of moons. Yeah, so this is, imagine if you're in shade. If you suddenly get into so we're that far from Earth, from this star, so we're that far from sun. It takes about, what, it's probably going to be like about 10 years to travel there, human years. And then if we're on the shady side of Europa, that far into space, how many degrees is there? God, you probably just like, you go out, you just like freeze right away, just like this. But it's another interesting position to travel. I don't even sure that well, there is like, maybe we can ever someday send some piece of tech in there, I guess. Well, that's like part of, I guess, like why we have to do, why billionaires are aiming to upload intelligence into computer, because you can't travel that far and live in these conditions if you're a fleshy little human. Fleshy little humans can't travel that far, and also can go insane, right? Because if somebody goes insane on the chip, you can just turn them off. Versus if you're a human goes insane on a space station, they can cause quite some damage. Yeah, like, yeah, this is like behavior of the Republic. Yes, there is like, I agree with that assessment. Is we insulate governing class from electorate, and yeah, condition for them to make fashion. Yeah, that's kind of like what my this is like one of the setups, and I think in a way how the government works in the Western states, that's like one of the I guess side effects of it is that this some forms, like the form of government produces basically anytime you try to reverse it, it reduces to hard right movements, because that's what we'll see with immigrants, right? So like, oh, conditions get worse, the solution, shut everything off, close the doors, revert back. Anything goes wrong, revert back. Oh yeah, Chris asks an important question. Continuity of consciousness. No, it doesn't. That's the whole drill. And actually really funny. So there is the scientist who I've been researching for this video, who actually works on mind uploading. So he's really big into connectome or brain uploading. He's an actual science guy. So he's not he doesn't have any what you call it, any science fiction-y ideas. The guy is very practical. So that practical guy's approach to continuity of consciousness is that there is none. Like if people ask him, they're like, "Oh, is there a self? Is there continuity of self?" And he's like, "No, it's not. There is just your brain, and your self is just a byproduct of your brain firing. That's it. There is literally." He's like very reductionist in his approach, but he says there is no consciousness, there is no idea of continuity of consciousness, is just non-existent because there is no such thing, and self doesn't exist. So that's a very interesting solution to actually addressing all those problems, by just saying that, you know what, none of this is real. What is real is just chemistry in your brain, and that's what I'm trying to do, is just copy that chemistry and put it into a computer. And that's literally what he's trying to do. And his underlying theory is that, yeah, there is no continuity, no consciousness, no self. So, and all this is a hoax, just simulate brain. That's it. Guy is very, he is sponsored by Elon Musk and Sam Altman. And those are, he's the actual guy who's trying to, he's not a scientist who is trying to do, like, he's taking part in research, but he's overseeing a bunch of projects, and he is like tracking all their cumulative work. So pretty important for the tech, because his position is basically oversee everything and then see which of the techs is which type of brain preservation is actually going to work. So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to look at all these different startups and companies and researchers and labs which are trying to do all the different things, and then he tries to identify which of them are actually working and which of them are not. So yeah, but his conclusion is no self, deal with it. And you don't exist. Soma, yeah, great game for that, by the way. Yeah, that's there is a lot of fiction that is related to it. I've been watching Experiment Lane again because we talked about it. If you didn't see, I was on the pod on in Toronto with Jirag and Brogan, and we talked a little bit about Experiment Lane, and after that I decided to rewatch it because I also need it for the video, but also very sad anime, but very important work on what happens when you upload yourself into the internet. What happens when you create two personalities? What happens when you just literally upload yourself into the brain, but there is also biological you still somewhere. So very a lot of thoughts on that standpoint. And if you so much science fiction, so many games, all of them are great. Somehow, none of that actually transfers into the tech world or billionaires. They don't. I don't know. Maybe they don't consume art. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe they're not consuming art. All right, guys. We either have to wrap up, or we have to take a washroom break. And by we, I mean me. So if people are interested in staying around, we can stay for another hour, or we can just wrap up, because it's not like that. Well, we have quite a bit people. We have quite some people. So maybe let's do that. Maybe let's take a break and then stay for about another half an hour or an hour. Okay, I'll be back in a minute or two. All right, we're back. We are back. Oh, let's close the door. Okay. I'm also terribly, terribly running out of space in here. You don't really see it, but my desk is basically like, this is it. Like, there is like this much space here. Because I got additional screen, which I stole from my husband. So now I have 3 screens on a basically writing table, but I have an attachment to this table. So I try to fit everything in here, and I reached the point where it objectively, I don't fit anymore. So I don't know. I'll try to upgrade my desk sometime. Sometime maybe before Christmas, because it's getting ridiculous. There is just no space to put anything. Like, my water is on the floor because there is no space for it. What do I have? You blame Plato. Yeah, Plato's Republic. That's where we start. That's the problem. Just beat that dead man. Yeah. So yeah, rich people in art. That's my assessment of it. Either maybe well, there is the attachment, obviously. So none of these people are attached to other human experiences. This is one thing. So I don't think they necessarily have something to reflect on art. And especially this is true when we talk about tech billionaires, because this is an interesting thing with current ultra rich as opposed to historically ultra rich people, because through history, a lot of the times what you'll see is that ultra rich will invest into things that into cultural and political landscape in a way that improves people's lives in a way. Like, for example, they would invest in artists, or like they would patronize the artists, they would build museums. That's why we have like all this, like, usually, old Europe and US, you go and there'll be a big building, big museum, and there is like some colonizer guy in front of it, because yeah, like they've been trading slaves for all their life, but they invested that money and built a museum, because that's how they were viewing themselves, as the creators of cultural and landscape in a way, which they would do by investing money. Current billionaires don't do this. We don't have there is no Elon Musk university. There is just there's a space base, yeah, but there is no cultural footprint in terms of art or literature that they produce, or educational. So the last ones who did that would probably be, even then, that's questionable, right? Because if we talk about Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, they already don't invest into art or culture. They invest a lot into health. So they would build schools, hospitals, water systems, stuff like that in the places which they deemed, desirable, optimized to do that. That's the probably the last guys who did, and then they already detached from art, and then current billionaires and current ultra rich are even more detached, so they are even further away. And also, they don't have human experiences. That's the other thing. So there is no sense of, pretty much no sense of risk. No, literally death is the only thing that connects them to the rest of the people, because there is no similar risks, no similar experiences, no, basically different life, right? So different mode of life, detached from the rest of the humans. Do you engage much with much of philosophy? Is the same reaction to a new thought? Yeah. So, but I mean, like, that's how all philosophy works in a way, and that's how all political philosophy works, is just progression. We are all living in the footnotes to Plato, right? That's the saying. that is said sometimes in political philosophy, that we're just reading, like we're just living in footnotes to Plato's Republic. We just add layers of thought, and sometimes there is a more radical thought that comes up, but general mainstream is just layers of ideas on top of ideas on top of ideas. And then, yeah, but that, I mean, in a way that's just how things are. I mean, is it good? Is it bad? Maybe not the best. Maybe it would be better if we, and like this is like part of the a lot of radical ideas, and I like them, like solar punk. So what if we just radically rethink everything? What if we imagine something so radically different, and maybe we don't make it happen, but we just imagine it. So imagine something different, which is important. You gotta start somewhere. You gotta imagine yourself outside of the notes to Plato. Get out of those footnotes, because before we do that mentally, nothing is gonna happen. Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, current AI billionaires influence culture by funding AI slop flooding social media. Yes, that's actually true. I don't think it was intentionally, but they did it because look at this. Like if you look, I don't know if Google fixed that. So um, let's try to look for something like, yeah, like even like this. So like let's just look for birds, right? So we go into the Google and we just look for birds, and then we AI is some of it AI. This is still a picture. This is still like manageable, because a lot of the times now you look at like, is this real? I don't think so. A lot of the times now you look into Google search and there is just AI. Like it's just AI slop. You go on YouTube, and obviously YouTube has a little better algorithm for optimizing it, because you only need to, like, there is self-selection of algorithm where it will reject the videos you don't watch. So if you don't watch slop, it will recommend you less of it anyway. But on Google, there is not much algorithm, and there is currently no good technology that would mark AI generated images over the real one. So it's just AI slop. So yeah, that's the gift from current billionaires is AI slop. Enjoy. Yum 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 yum. Cultural footprint. Uh, oh yeah, I'm down for long answers. If people ask me, because I think like I talked a lot on space travel, I don't think I have much to say there. About colonizing space, other than I do not dream of being uploaded into the Bob, and I do not dream of being sent to Mars, and I just want to live a healthy life and then pass away, and I'm kind of fine with it. So I don't really. I don't have much to say there. Well, I mean, I have a lot to say, but I'm making a video about it, so you guys gotta wait a little bit. Wait a little bit. Maybe like 4 to 6 weeks type of thing. So before New Year, it will be released. Mm. Uh, oh yeah, Marx is really interesting, because I read not all of him, but quite some of him, of Marx. So he's an interesting writer. I think people should like read it. But my position on Marx, because sometimes people ask me, because I use him a lot, but I'm not necessarily a Marxist. Actually, I'm not really a Marx. I mean, to some extent, but I have a position on this because so he was so influential, and so many things were tried after, that people should read him, and read him in context of history. So what changed? Because Marx like died, God. When did he die? He died like before USSR even happened, right? Uh, yeah. So he died before even 20th century. Yeah, 1883. So while he was right in a lot of things, and he has a lot of interesting thought that needs to be read in the context of what changed, because a lot of things even changed from USSR times and from last 50 or 60 years, especially in the West when we talk about deindustrialization. So Marx is writing in the birth of industrialization of the West, and we're living in the end of deindustrialization of the West. So we are like pretty far out, and then but then like there is an important thought, like I just don't like when people necessarily read him as a Bible, because then you might as well just read the Bible. But yeah, he would his thoughts are important but need to be understood in the context. Mm-hmm. What else do we have? Oh yeah, yeah, generated content in the feed. Don't we all like a little sloppy slop? Oh, there is like so much, and then the thing is, it's very hard now. Like doing research on the internet became progressively hard in the last, I would say, last 6 months. Because I do a lot of what I do. I start online, and then if I find a book, I'll read a book and stuff like that. But doing let's say, because I generally try to see what other people did on the topic so I don't duplicate the work. So if you go on YouTube and you just look for something like, you know, like for the same thing, like space travel, like if I go on YouTube and just look for space travel, more than half of those videos would be just like slop. They're faceless, a like generated imagery on generated text on generated imagery with generated music. So it's just literally person going in and then generating pretty much everything and putting it together. And then because how algorithm works on YouTube, there is quality, but there is also frequency. So for people who are not going for quality, frequency becomes the main criteria, and then they just turn slop. They just like put it out, and then you can't find the actual videos in it anymore because YouTube search is also garbage. So instead of looking at the potential work that other people did so I can build on it, I don't get that. I just get I just get slop. It's just horrible. Mhm. Uh, what is the better place to live? A spaceship from Interstellar or a submarine from Sequest? Hmm. Let me see. Um, the hmm. That's an interesting question. What is better, submarine or a spaceship? I would choose submarine because I like I'm a water creature. I like to swim. I have aquariums and stuff. So submarine is like more my vibe than space travel. Uh, so I would definitely go underwater. Mm. Mhm. Yeah, all techs seem to be really focused on the factory workers and such, and it feels like the more yeah, yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? With a lot of Marxist thought and a lot of, even when we talk about leftists who are more into the theory a link to like authoritarian left, you know, like it kind of comes back in popularity now. So we have more we have Republicans taking Maoist policies, right? So it's that popular, and then a lot of in use Marxism Leninism is becoming more popular because they feel like it's gonna achieve. It's like a functional way to achieve their dreams, right? Because obviously, being an anarchist approach is pretty slow and not very centralized. Which is its benefit, which is why anarchists like it, because like like as opposed to just having central government, but it's highly efficient. So like the thing is about China, Maoist China or USSR is what you'll see is in history. If you just read the good parts of history, then all you see is somebody said something and it was done, right? Build the I don't know, build the railway. Railway is done. Who built it? Don't ask those questions. That's too many questions. But the reality, like the practical aspect of it, is appealing to a lot of people currently. Without really reviewing the fact that that's not the world we live in, and perhaps a lot of, especially when we talk about the West, people would. I don't think Westerners as people like Canadians, for example, are not. It's a different culture. It's for a more individualistic culture to even think about the even entertaining ideas of Marxist Leninism, because I mean, in the concept of social democracy, maybe like we say, oh, like we can't get Lenin, but we can get social democracy, and then just proceed with social democracy or something like that. So that's kind of coming as an appeal, but again, not reflected on the history that much. YouTube search. Oh yeah, Chris knows too. The YouTube search function is just hell. For anybody who's making YouTube videos, it's impossible now. You just can't use it. Like I might as well. I use Google to search YouTube. That's how terrible it gets. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. uBlock. Or yeah, like yeah, you have to use like filters, or additional software, or just go through a different website. There are such people as MAGA communists. Yeah, yeah. We talked a little bit about that because when I went on the pod, we talked a lot about all this wacky authoritarian movements which are coming up in U.S. I think part of it is that the position in history. Currently, we have this like especially for younger, like I still consider myself younger generation, but I'm not the youngest. Definitely, there when we talk about teens and late teens, so they were raised in this idea of okay, they are somehow in charge of everything, which is really weird. So people would be like, oh, young generations will figure it out. So this is one thing. And then the second thing is they also constantly get this negative onslaught of like very negative thinking. So climate is collapsing, this sense of catastrophe happening to them, and them being in charge of resolving it. So they are positioned in the history where everything is falling apart and they somehow need to fix it. So for a lot of the youth, then positions of authority and authoritarianism would be appealing, be it right, left, or just Republicans, like MAGA type of thing. So whenever they see a strong man who can, in their mind, just fix everything, right? Because it sounds easy. You just get a guy who wants everything done, and then everybody listens to him, and then whoever doesn't listen to him, don't ask what questions, like don't ask what happens to those who don't listen to him. But a bunch of people listen to him, and then we just reverse climate change and do whatever we want, right? So that's the authoritarian appeal to the modern generation, be it right or left. Yeah, but MAGA communists are really funny because that's literally Republican Maoism, because they're very much into they are a little bit into Lenin, but they are more so into Mao. So idea, for example, forcing because if you curb immigration in U.S., then there is a problem of who is doing all the dirty work. And the answer to that is we force American citizens into doing dirty work. So that's what happens. This is like a Maoist practice. Everybody gets, and actually, like that was still in my childhood, in early Russian days, that was also a thing, where every summer we would get. In my days, it was already 2 weeks. In my parents' time, it was a couple of months, and in my grandparents' time, it was a couple of months. So everybody goes to either work on the farm, or work in the factory, or work in the school or stuff like that. So you would get a couple of weeks of pretty much enforced communal work, no matter who you were. So that's MAGA communists are very much into that. So they would be like, oh, we don't get any immigrants because we're just gonna force like citizens to do all that labor. Like, wow, good luck with that, guys. Is there a video idea that you would like to but apprehensive about? Like maybe due to the idea being hard or certain time wise or scope wise. So there is like there are a couple like that. Because generally what like there is a couple. So one is I'm gonna release a video on Patreon actually for that for the topic of war. So I'm not generally a big proponent of talking about war on my channel because I don't want to feed that stuff into the algorithm. This is one thing. And then the second thing is the how would I say the well, aside of algorithm, it's very hard. It's very easy to stick to that topic, especially if I suddenly start talking about Russian-Ukrainian war. It's easy to turn the channel into just that, just talking about war, and just talking about or just talking about Russia, right? So like this is the what's the YouTuber name? It is a Russian YouTuber. You might know him. He uses like four letters. NFKRZ. Right. So this is the oops. We're gonna go his channel. The can I transition myself here? Yeah. So I forgot his name. Yeah, but you probably know him. So like the thing is, his channel was travel channel actually. Until the war started and he started talking more about war, and now he basically has to talk about Russia for videos to make views. So don't want to go there. Absolutely do not dream of talking about Russia in any or about war. So I will post the video on Patreon because I try to keep it out of the algorithm. And then there is like also the ones which are like very difficult in scope. The ones which are either it's just like because if I go full time that would be easier, but since I'm doing this and I'm having work, so I have to select the topics which take less than, let's say, like I can't pour like I still pour a lot into research, but let's say if I do anywhere between 50 to 80 hours of research, it's still less than what would be required to make like a topic on like I would prefer to make a bigger video on the topic of hard right rising in US. It's not exactly algorithmically optimized and it's very difficult. Like actual hard right. Not just Republicans, but the rise of the movements on the ground. But this is not algorithmically optimized topic, very heavy to research. So yeah, like I do dismiss some of the things. And then also the other thing is after I made a video on climate collapse, I decided that I just don't make sad videos anymore for the algorithm. So just if the topic is extremely sad and I cannot turn it around to be more entertaining, or like if I cannot joke about it, it's only for Patreon. Otherwise it just becomes otherwise it just dies. Otherwise it's a lot of work that just dies. So I don't mind doing it, but I put it on Patreon versus YouTube. What account of property makes sense in the 21st century? I don't have any solid, like I think about it, but I don't have any good answer for this question because we currently have I have like this like old idea of whatever you use is yours type of thing. So I don't it's like personal-ish type of property, but I don't have any good answer just because I think it's like a little bit of outside of my my scope, and all my thoughts about it are not very educated. Oh yeah, if you have fair communism, you need to force everybody to do everything. Yeah, like if you want, like that's my problem with a lot of the leftist not like it's actually a lot of the leftists in like it's like more Western thought, because if you in part I guess because Russia had the history of USSR, right? So we have a little bit of this authoritarian left communist stuff. So and also the topic of exploitation. So a lot of the more like liberal originating left in the West would be speaking about the topic of capital exploits people, but the reality of it is that nature exploits people in part, but the reality is exploitative. There is no kind of way around it unless we just want, like, because we can't go back to like pre-human condition. We can't become monkeys, right? So there is always the urge to do things in humans, and there is also a need to do things. So there is always a desire to not just to have more, but to have better life. And then there is also things that need to be done, and then people are different in their abilities and skills. So I'm a big proponent of like people actually should be pulling the load. Not even like it's within leftist movements, and just in general, like if we want to have a world that is better in any way possible, people have to put in the work. Which is unfortunately not exactly necessarily me aligning me with a lot of what to say, like it's not necessarily aligning me with some of the leftist movements which are going the opposite, right? So like we'll say, oh, anti-work, not exactly anti-work, but yeah, like this post-work type of mindset where we speak about nobody does anything. Like literally nobody does anything. Like who washes the dishes? That's my question always. Who washes the dishes in your perfect world? Who washes the dishes? So in my perfect world, everybody washes the dishes. So that's my answer to this. So like whenever we speak about exploitation or fairness and work that needs to be done, like I don't think we have to like force people. I think it has to come from the inside, but people have to understand that their leftist paradise actually requires work. It actually requires us to do things. And some of those things would be would be easy. Some of those things would be hard. Some of those things we like to do, some of the things we do not. Some of the people will put more and some people will put in less. And that's just kind of, it's like, you work from social and society and biology up to building more complex social structures. So you kind of have to put in things, like you have to put in, and that's part of me being, I guess, because I actually work. So part of me comes from that standpoint because everybody in my family works. I work. I don't come like many YouTubers would, especially on the left. They would just go university and then YouTube. That's not what happened to me. Like I work since I'm a teen. Since about 14, 15, I start working for money. And then I work and I interfere with a lot of people who are also workers. So they're pretty much working class. So a lot of my personal politics are working class politics. So I think that the work needs to be done. Shit needs to get done, and then it's getting done by people doing it. So, and then the thing is, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be the same across what everybody is doing, but it needs to be done. So, move the butt. That's my that's my internal philosophy. Yeah, I would be down to do a couple of weeks of a year to ensure we get public work done. And who washes the dishes? That's the question. So who always there's who cooks the food, who washes the dishes, who does all that stuff. Mm. Yeah, but we need to do less. Yeah, that's the thing. So like the thing is, when I even talk about work, there's actually a lot of so if you look at how we structure our work now, there is a lot of bullshit work. So a lot of people are wasting resources and their time on the work that actually doesn't need to be done. Nobody needs Walmart greeters. They're nice people, but it's not a job that doesn't need to exist. So it's just an imaginary job that we came up with. From each according to their ability. Yes, I take that seriously. From each according to their ability is just as important as the second part of that sentence. Yeah, but the yeah, Chris is right. Yeah, like from each according to their ability. That's like part of the thing that stuff just kind of, if we don't do it, it's not gonna happen. Like there is only people and there's only work currently is only coming from people. Like if we ever automate, and I'm a big proponent of automation, I think a lot of the jobs need to be automated, and a lot of people need to work far less than they currently do, but still work needs to get done. So either way, there is no, and the thing is, like, if we talk about this like socialism and communism, a lot of it actually relies not on capitalist exploitation, but on some sort of and like people opposed to it sometimes, like anti-socialist left, like this is an idea of self-exploitation or internal exploitation. So some of the leftist movements would also be going over the board and be a little bit exploitative towards their community members. So if we have something like a commune, then you get this what's the Animal Farm horse type of character, right? So we end up in the position where people self-exploit to the point of work, like just like to the point of death. Pretty much that's what the Animal Farm, but like in real life, just a lot of self-exploitation is happening. So that definitely can be addressed, but I don't think it can be completely eliminated to the point where we just all sit on the couch all the time and just because even then it's like, well, that's I guess how far we want to go into my personal feelings about work and labor. That's the question. But I don't really find personally a lot of joy in just this hedonistic nothingness. Like, I'm not a person who likes to do nothing. I'm not a person who likes to just I find pleasure in doing things, let's say. So that's kind of approach of that's where that approach is coming from, that I think like people need to do what they find pleasure in, and then they have to actually do things, and then do not as much, and no bullshit job, no, like potentially just like, not that much money dependent would be good, because a lot of the struggle we have now is that people have to, well, it's like David Gerbert, the bullshit jobs guy, anarchist, now dead, unfortunately. But his idea was that you waste resources on the jobs that don't need to be done. And then people have to do those jobs because they have to sustain themselves, because that's how the economy works. So getting rid of this too would be absolutely beneficial to everybody in the society. And then we all have to work less and we actually do meaningful work. So that would be very nice. That would be super cool if we ever get there. Will we? That's a big question. But would be super cool if we ever do. If you force every engineer to clean toilet for a few hours a week, they'll invent a toilet cleaning robot in a month. Yeah, that's true. Because the thing is, like, if people, I feel like a lot of this, inventions and tech, like for example, like even with AI, like why are we pouring so much hope and resources into AI? There is use for it, in science specifically. For example, cancer research is probably gonna significantly benefit from AI because there's so much data to be processed, and none of the, like, we don't have one human brain that will do it. So we need this super advanced calculator who would run through all the cancer data and then, summarize it for actual humans. That would be super cool if we ever do that. But then the thing is, like, why are we putting AI into, like, now it's like AI in everything. Oh my God. Like, it's like AI is creating, aside of like creating pictures and texts and music, we have all these apps which are now AI. So like, do we need that tech? Arguably, no. So, but somebody poured their skill and time into making it. So what if we take that person and like ask them to do something else? Like, what if we take all this advanced skill that we have, and being somebody who works very close to automation, it's like, yeah, like if we have really well-running equipment and really well-engineered machinery and robotics, you significantly reduce the amount of, especially physical labor, right? So something like mining, like, why do we still have kids mining in mines in 2024? How about we automate that job? How about that is given to robots, and kids just, I don't know, like have fun and go to school, you know. How about that? We're not even there yet. So like a lot of this is there's a lot of progress that can be done. Oh yeah, Chris. Bye bye, Chris. Chris just posted a video on his channel, so check it out. Check it out on your way out. Um, Maoists want to basically use the state to force people to work. Yeah. This is what is the alternative to Maoist forcing people. My alternative is changing people's mindset about work, and then changing the structure of how we work. So I feel like a lot of people would feel much better about their work if they were not as alienated from what they're doing. That's one of the solutions. And the second solution is developing this revolutionary mindset, if you wish. So developing understanding that you are in charge of your life, and our decisions matter, and that we need to organize, and all that is coming from the inside of people's heads in a way. So I mean, it's a little bit optimistic, obviously, but I also not a big fan of forcing people to labor, because that's like, if you historically that's what a lot of societies do, right? Like, it's just even currently US is relying a lot on the pretty much enforced labor of prisoners and people in underdeveloped countries. So prosperity is built on people who have no choice but to be exploited. So, you know, getting more responsibility into people's heads and would be a good start. And creating positions where we have more attached labor and not as alienated. Optimistic, but also gotta be a dreamer. Gotta be a dreamer, and also, like, in my experience, it kind of works. Because anytime if I tangle with some leftist organizations who are more productive, that's a lot of the times how they operate. This is like a good leftist organizing. If you ever have to experience it, it's magical. You know, when you have a group of people who are all committed, and they are all sharing some common goal, and they all like to work towards it, and they work towards it. If you ever have to experience it in your life, it's just it's great. I wish we did it more often. You know, that's my only wish, is that we did it a little bit more often, and that leftists would organize in that way a little bit more often as well, as opposed to just centering around I know, just like centering about either identity or just pure theory or just pure protesting, as there is a lot of potential in leftist organizing, even in the way we can redefine labor and work, not just in a way that we can change the society or something. Do I think there is going to be a significant difference? Yes, I do think so. I think Republicans are far worse, not because the Republicans themselves are far worse. Like, party-wise, they're kind of the same. And when people say they're the same, they are kind of the same. But the difference, and why I don't like Republicans, is because they are signaling to the far right. So that's especially evident with Trump and J.D. Vance and how they run the campaign. So what is scary is not the Republicans, but the people that they encourage, and the people that they bring into mainstream politics, and the people that they give positions to. So that's kind of my opinion on that. So I do still think that even like leftists, like, for example, I think the leftists in swing states should do like it's like a solidarity action. I don't expect them to like go and vote for Democrats because they like Democrats, because nobody really likes them. But it can be, I view it as a solidarity action in some of the communities that actually make a difference in US. And then I think depending on who wins, there will be a difference, obviously. Maybe not as much as people say. Like, I don't expect this, like, oh, it's an end to democracy and US is gonna fall and we're all gonna revolt back to fascism. I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't think that's true. But some, like a lot of the lives would be a lot more lives would be negatively affected, and a lot of the hard right movements will be more activated if Republicans win. Mm. Mm? Yeah, machines shouldn't be replacing everything. Yeah, that would be cool. Like, like, if we have machines that we use for, like, it's obviously it's an utopian world, but also it's a utopian world which is, for example, far more accessible than space travel. So automating dangerous, because there's a lot of dangerous jobs. So dangerous and physically toiling jobs, automating this would be a great start if we ever have tech to do this. And then, yeah, like, because the thing is, if we, like, for example, like, we automated cashier work, right? So you go to the grocery store, self checkout. Technically, not a necessary job, but also, is that a priority? Like, it appears to be socially a priority, right? So we automate art and service jobs, and then we put more people into either poverty or physical labor or just something else miserable, versus doing it as the way around. Because I would rather have, no people in mines, robot mining, and then I would still have a cashier. I'm fine with cashiers. But we go either way. So it's not exactly, the problem is not the automation, but the way we execute it currently. And the way, like, that's the thing with, like, when we talk about space travel, because all these people who dream about space travel, they are the same people who dream about automation. And then we know what they did with automation, where they just automated the jobs which did not need to be automated, and did not automate the jobs which actually harm people. So, like, what do we expect of the space travel? Exactly the same thing currently, right? So we expect the same thing to happen, like nothing particularly good. So yeah, that's the and that's the unfortunate unfolding of events we live in. But, well, maybe, like, I think, like, there will be some. I don't expect, like, what do I say? Like, I don't expect space travel to happen. I don't think any of the ideas of Elon Musk or Thiel are viable. Therefore, I don't see them as too dangerous, because none of this is. It's a waste of money and waste of human time, but it is not harmful in a way as their ideas about AI, or their ideas about work and health, and what the people, like, like, other social aspects of their ideology is far worse than their thoughts about uploading themselves into computer chips. All right. Any more questions? Or I'm gonna run. I'm like so ready to have a little weekend. I came back from Toronto because I was in Toronto, and before Toronto I was editing video, went to Toronto, came back, got sick. So so three weekends just went into a dump. No, not went into a dumpster. I really liked my trip to Toronto. That was super good. I really enjoyed it. But skipped the weekend, got sick before I was working, and then this weekend still I have, like, with all my complaints about protesting, it's a protest day in Alberta today. So I'll be out in the afternoon. So that will be another interesting experience. I don't think of it as fascist yet, but it's on the way. Yeah, because what the Republicans are doing, they're not fascists. Because sometimes people say Trump is fascist. Like, no, he himself is not. But what he does is he signals to the actual fascists, and they feel empowered to do things, and then they feel more justified in their position. Fascism plus. Yeah, this is already fascist. Well, it depends how you define it, right? Because, like, I don't really define it as fascist because I deal with I research such a hard far right movements that for me, I don't really see, like, for me, like, even Republicans are still kind of, like, mild from how terrible the things can be. But rather what I see it as, like, fascist authoritarianist structure. Like, what they are is, like, more authoritarian structure, right? So there is no, or I guess the correct way to think about it would be, if you know One Dime YouTube channel, he has a video on managed democracy. He's gonna do a book on it. So that's very representative of U.S. structure. So it's managed democracy where you don't really get to choose. That's the thing. That's it. You have like this appeal of choice, but not really. And then both of the parties would always support war, support like anti-immigrant action, support. It just like it's very much. What do you call it? Like this like confined managed space politically. Mm-hmm. Oh, visit Prince Edward Island. I wish. This is the part of Canada I've never went to. I really want to visit East Coast one day. So because I'm in Paris. I lived in the West. I traveled a little north. I wasn't never visited Quebec and East Coast, but I'm really like an ocean person. I was raised in the coastal area of Black Sea, so I really miss that part in Alberta because in Alberta you don't get much water. I can tell you that. Only in the north, but not in the south. But that would be definitely a cool place to visit on the east side. Hmm. Yeah, they differ. Yeah, that's the thing. Like with the social issues, yeah, they differ internally socially, and they differ to who they appeal to and whose actions they validate. But they don't really externally. No difference. Like really, like on the international scene, no. Um, mhm. Yeah, we gave government. Yeah, this is by the way when we talk about space travel, guys. NASA was not a like when they started. They literally took German Nazis and like U.S. put them into NASA. So space travel by itself has a very questionable history if we really go into it. Um, yeah, yeah, so colonialism, imperialism. Yes, none of this is right, and just voting will not change the external politics. Like people talk about Gaza, but like voting will not change what's happening in Gaza. So if for people, I understand when people say like, "Oh, we're not voting because there is no difference." If you, yeah, that's not gonna. But to be fair, it's not just U.S. Any state has very uniform international policy. So well, all of them, like it's the same in Europe. Like Europe leadership changes, their policy doesn't change. Same in Middle East, it's very much whomever they're opposed to is the same people they're opposed to if the government changes. So like if you want my opinion, geopolitics is intrinsically unethical. There is nothing. There is no space for leftism in geopolitics because it's just there is no way to play it right in current this like very imperial power struggle. There's just we as leftists are like very far from it, and even having any negligent effect on it. And the governments just maintain the same line of policies and unfortunate reality of our life. Okay, so this is I'm gonna finish here. Thanks for everybody who came in. It was an absolute pleasure to have everybody on the pod, God. To have everybody live on the stream. I'll try to stream once a month, or at least once every 2 months. We'll see. So I actually kind of enjoy it. In a way, it's a very different experience from making videos. It was nice to see everybody. I now know how to end the stream, so you don't have to close your eyes. Okay, bye bye, and see you on the next one.